Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing on today? I am super duper excited because, guys, we get to hang out with author Suzanne Kelman on today. And, guys, this is her latest book. It's hot off the press, The Last Day in Paris. It is a historical fiction as well. So, of course, you know what to do here at the cafe. Like, tag, and share. Tell a friend to come on down because we are hanging out with author Suzanne Kelman on today. Suzanne, my friend, I'm going to allow you the opportunity to introduce yourself to the people.
Hi. Hi, my name is obviously Suzanne Kelman, and I am a historical fiction writer. I've written a lot of actually other women's fiction as well, and I have been a screenwriter in the past. And yeah, I write historical fiction, and I love what I do. I enjoy being able to research incredible places, write lovely stories, and it's a really fun genre to writing. So yeah, I love.
I love that. I love that. Guys, again, welcome to the cafe. Thank you guys for joining us. Suzanne, you froze, but let's see if she will come back. Let's see. Let's try this and add her back. There you are.
I was going to say, I don't know what happened.
Yes, but we took you out and put you back in, and now it works. I love it. I love it. I love it, guys.
I actually do live in the sticks, so we occasionally the internet kind of goes down. So I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I won't go anywhere. You just do what you need to do to get me back.
I love that. I love that. Well, guys, this is her latest novel, The Last Day in Paris, and it's actually book one of the Paris Sister series. Now, Suzanne, before we get into this, as you share, you have written some women's fiction. You have written historical fiction as well. Now, for your historical fiction, what would you say that it is about World War II that you enjoy writing?
I think it's an amazing time. I love to write about real stories. Like I always try to find a real woman of courage, and particularly women's stories. Like I feel like they've been really wrote over the years. It's getting a lot better now. But what I love about it is you find these incredible stories, people that were normal human beings going about their life, doing their business, and suddenly they're thrown into a situation where they have to find courage that you would never normally have to find. And so I never like to write a character who kind of runs into the picture already armed, ready to go. I like to find people who really were put into situations where they find their own personal courage and move through because of their own passion or what drives them. So my stories aren't very gritty, from the heart-centered stories about women, mainly women, finding their calling and their purpose. And I use the war, that backdrop of the war, as kind of that pressure to help them get to where they need to be in their journey. If you know what I mean.
Wow. Now, speaking of that, Suzanne, as we said, the Paris Sisters, this is book one in this series. And I love covers. And of course, this is a historical fiction cover. Of course, you see the warplanes in the backdrop, lets us know it's World War II, that era as well. But when you saw the final cover for The Last Day in Paris, what was that like for you?
I actually burst into tears because I thought it was beautiful.
Oh, wow.
The reality is we have very little control over our covers. I don't know if most people know authors have a lot of control over their covers, and so it's marketing choice. They choose covers based on what's now, and they choose same with the titles, and so it's always a little nerve-wracking because you're never quite sure if you're going to get a really lovely cover. And this one seems to be working really nicely. People seem to like it. I thought it was beautiful. And the actual whole series is about a group of orphans, and we see them because they're all dual timelines, and we see them all as adults and why their lives have ended up And we're also following this family of sisters through the war. Each one of them have their own story. They're all very creative. One works in the arts, one is a dancer, one is an incredible violinist, one is a bookshop, is a person who works in a bookshop. Yeah, that's my next book coming out. And they are just very simple Parisian women who make the decision that they're gonna save the heart of Paris. And to them, that is the music and the art and the beauty. And they have these very courageous stories that they live in order to bring about that. And they are all based on true stories. Like every story, I go and find a real story. And I don't I also am inspired by true story because I don't follow somebody's real trajectory. But like in the first book, The Last Day in Paris, which takes place a lot in the Louvre, and it's all about one woman, Rose Vallant. She saved thousands and thousands of pieces of art. And what she did was, as the art was being taken from the Louvre, she recorded everything. She had a photographic memory. She wrote everything down. And after the war, she was able to tell the Allies where every piece of art was. And they were able to see tens of thousands of pieces of stolen art that had come through the Louvre. And her story inspired The Last Days of Paris. And so, she's in my book. She's one of the sisters. So that's where I take that fictional, artistic license. But it was just such an inspiring story. I love stories like, here's this little Liberian lady, and if you see a picture of her, she's like the little round glasses and the tight gray hair, and she's this really sweet lady. And she was like she was incredible strength that she had, and courage. And she nearly got taken to Germany 3 times and put in the camps, and because she knew so much, they were concerned about how much she knew, and she still managed to be in there. And so I had to write about her. It was like, I have to find a story where her story would fit into. And so The Last Days of Paris, the first in the series, is all about Rose Valette, and in my story it's Isabelle Vallant. So it's a little, Rose Vallant, this is Isabelle Valette in my story.
Wow. Guys, and if you guys are just joining us, we are hanging out with author Suzanne Kelman on today, guys. Her new release, The Last Day in Paris. Now, Susan, tell us a little bit about the title, The Last Day in Paris. For you, was this your working title when you was writing this story, or did this title come later? Tell us about the title.
Yeah, I didn't actually have a title. I actually had a different title for this, which I think they're going to use in the last book. So I can't tell you what that was, because they like to surprise the audience with the title. So I can't tell you. And that I had a different working title for that. And I wasn't, when they first gave me this story, this title, I wasn't quite sure how it was going to fit in. I kind of knew where they were going with it, and it does really fit in with the books and what they're trying to do. And so I did actually. There is a moment in the book. In fact, they really focus on that in the synopsis, where there's a whole Jewish story that goes along in this. So in the modern day story, we're following a woman who finds a piece of art. It is told there's a piece of art in the wall with a letter to her mother. So that is uncovered. So that's the modern day story, and we're following that Jewish story, which is her Jewish great grandmother's story in the war. And so in the story, the mother, who is Bridget, who is the woman who hides the art. She is her daughter Sophie. We see that that's her story, where she's been put on the train. Her mother decides that it's too dangerous. She's still got to find this incredible piece of art that is her husband's only last living legacy, and she's so frightened, she's protecting it. And so she puts her daughter on the train, where she hopes she's going to be safe. And so we have that moment there where she's literally going to be put on the train and find. And that's the bit that they have in the synopsis. So so that's I think when they come to write the synopsises, they always are looking for the piece that is going to really hook you in as a reader. So that's what they really focus on in the synopsis for the book. So
Yes. Now, Susan, you mentioned a little bit about this story, and I love a good dual timeline. Like you have modern day, and then you also go back into like 1940 Paris. Let's see. Y'all bear with us. We are going to make sure that Susan stays with her. Her internet may go in and out. So she'll be back in just a second. If you guys are just joining us, we are hanging out with Suzanne Kelman on today. She'll be back shortly. This is her latest novel, The Last Day in Paris. We will definitely be sharing with you how you can get your hands on a copy of The Last Day in Paris. It is actually book one in the series. It is available in ebook and it is available in print. And as Susan has shared with us, she is also, in addition to writing historical fiction, she also writes women's fiction as well. And some of her stories are based on real life events or what have you, and she weaves that into her amazing story. So she should be back with us soon. If you guys are just joining us, and if you have a question or two, be sure to put it in the comment section. We'll be sure to include you as well. So if you have any questions for Susan, you can put those in the comment sections now, or if you have any comments, you can put those in the comment section as well. So we are waiting for Susan to pop back in, and hopefully she'll be joining us shortly as well. And this is a perfect time. We had a question to say, what genre is this? This is actually a historical fiction, and it is in the World War II era. And here comes Susan.
I'm so sad. I'm really sorry, everybody.
You are fine, Susan. Look, you did tell us that that your internet, you may go in and out. So I
It's
was
so
just
weird because
bringing them up to speed.
that's about it. Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem. Now, Susan, can you share with us a little bit about when you think about the characters of The Last Day in Paris, as well as the other books that are going to be in this series? For you, with this series, and this is book one, what came first? Was it the characters, or was it the plot and the storyline of what this series was going to be about? Can you share a little bit about that with us?
But you broke up a little bit with the question. Sorry. You want me to share about the characters,
Yes,
where they
for
came
this
from?
series. Yes, for this series and for book one, what came first for Susan? Was it the characters, or was it the plot and the storyline?
Well, I always, first of all, I think it's always characters for me. What story do I want to tell? And then where do I want to put them that will tell that story the best way? So, for example, I love to always create an outside pressure and an inner pressure. So in Isabel's story, she's living with a lot of guilt from her childhood that she can't get over. That you read that about the story, and whereas who is the best sister to tell this story? And I felt like because of what actually happens in her past, to put her in the Louvre, be the sister that was in the Louvre, it was the best fit for her. So yeah, the characters, I always want to tell character stories. And then because the reality is with a plot, you could go all different ways, but if you don't really connect with that character, it doesn't matter what you do with them. I can never finish a book where I'm not really connected with the character. So I always try to make my characters really strong, really relatable, hopefully, and then hopefully you fall in love with them, because that's when we really have that experience. And for me as a writer, it's the same. I want to have the same experience that my readers. I want to get emotional. I want to cry in the right place. I want to be cheering in the right places. So I'm always looking for characters that will have that journey, but the characters first for me, I believe.
I love that. I love that. Now, Susan, speaking of the characters, let's talk about them a little bit, and I'll get you to kind of like describe them a little bit. First of all, of course, let's talk about Isabel. What would you say about
Mm-hmm.
her? How would you describe her to us?
I would say she's one of those people that you meet, A-type character. She keeps herself very close. she's she's very fearful of having anything not be different in her life. She wants to make sure that everybody is happy, and because of that, she is closed down emotionally. She has never really had a relationship. She works very hard. Yeah, she was in the Louvre morning and night. She's worked her way up to a senior position in the Louvre because she is so dedicated, and she's very passionate about art. And there's something that happens in her past to do with art that means that she has an even stronger connection to it. So when the Nazis start to destroy it, it really is a hard situation for her, because she really is passionate about not just the art, but the connection with art and what it means to her. And so I just think she's one of those very dedicated A-type characters that you meet that has a lot of that's kind of broken inside, but she just is doing the best that she can with what she has.
Yes. Now, what can you tell us about Bridget? What would you say about her character?
So Bridget, she's that warm, wonderful. She's a mom. She's got him, and they've got a beautiful daughter, and so she's one of these people. She's Jewish. So once she gets into the war, and her husband dies in the beginning of the war, I know this is in the synopsis, so I'm not giving away any spoilers. He gets killed in a very dramatic way, and she is heartbroken. Has left of him is this incredible piece of art that the Nazis steal from her, Sophie, that of art that that I'm most passionate about. This means that we're going to rise again. It describes to me. It's all about the French, and so she's going to find this piece of art. Now she eventually finds out that it's at the Louvre, but she goes down this path where she has to get another identity. She lives this double life, and she knows that at some point her husband's art is going to pass through this gallery and to give this one last legacy to her daughter. And so she's one of these people that is thrown, like I was saying, she's living a very normal day-to-day life, but something happens and she's makes that decision that she's got to go and save this piece of work. It's not just about the art for her, it's art that and so we're following that piece of art back in the past and also in the contemporary story. And what happens, I love to try to do this. I love to have the back in time story inspire the contemporary story. So the woman who is actually walking through that story, like her journey.
And that's one of the things that I enjoyed about this story is the dual timeline, and the way that both stories was infused together. I love that, the way that you did that and you blended them well. So that was great as well. Now, Susan, can you share with us, think about the characters, and of course, there is Sophie, but when you think about all of the characters of The Last Day in Paris, is there a character that was the most interesting for you to write? And then at the same time, is there a character that was a little more complex for you to write in The Last Day in Paris?
That's a great question. I think I was really concerned about writing Isabel because I wanted to make sure that people loved her, but she wasn't too standoffish. And, there is parts in that where she feels at the beginning where she's a little cold, and I wanted people to connect with her really quickly. And so I was really concerned. And the interesting thing is when I first started writing this, we realized pretty quickly that Isabel is kind of the protagonist, but so is Bridget. It's both of their stories. Yes. And we realized had to be that way because, of course, the Jewish story, the story about a woman fighting for her, her family and everything, was much more compelling for us as readers. And so we needed to make sure. But in the beginning, I was concerned I wouldn't have a strong enough story for Isabel for us to. I didn't want her to be a two-dimensional character. So that was my biggest fear, is that she would come off two-dimensional. And so I am hoping that I got with her. I hope you enjoyed her. But like that, I would say she was the most challenging character to write. I would say the most delightful character to write in this, and it was a surprise because I didn't know he was going to, and I've forgotten his name. That happens sometimes on another book. What is her husband's name? Oh my goodness. I'll have to look it up real quick. Do you remember his name? Bridget's husband's name? Okay, I've got it here.
Hold on.
This is the thing. This is when you're writing 3 books at a time. And I'm not great at Samuel. His name's Samuel. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm actually right in the middle of editing this one, so I have a whole bunch of other characters, and I'm plotting
in your head.
So I got so many characters in my head. Her name is Samuel, and Samuel was a delight to me. He was, and I didn't know he was going to be that way. I knew he was going to die fairly early on, but I wanted people to connect with him pretty quickly. But he is this person who sees the good in the world. He's a magical person. He's the person that, instead of seeing a flaw, he sees all the years that have created the flaw, and all the people that have walked on it. And he's like the romantic, the poet, the person who really like sees the world in Technicolor and brings and draws both Bridget and Sophie into. And so when he died, that Bridget is such a huge loss, not just because she's left without a husband or a father for Sophie, but Suzanne, who had been such a joy for her and had been such a, this incredible, we all meet human beings like that just make the world a special place. And I feel like Samuel was a character in that, and I didn't know he was going to be that way. And that's what the funniest thing about writing is. You start writing a character, you're not quite sure where they're going to go, and suddenly they become somebody. Their voice comes out, and you're like, "Oh, okay, this is who they're going to be. Okay, great." And I spent so much time running after characters rather than inventing them. It's more fun for me that way too. It's much more cooperative with the whatever story gods we have that help us.
Yes. And even, I'm glad that you mentioned Samuel, because even the way that, when Sophie had questions about what, this is 1940 Paris, and she had questions about, what was going on when the Nazis was coming, and the way that, I love how he would tell her the stories, so she could kind of understand on her level, but he would make her feel safe. The same thing with his wife, as well. So I totally understand, Samuel's, character and how that could have been, especially like you said, because he gets killed early on in the book or what have you. But yeah, he is one of those characters that is larger than life, and the way that he sees the world, he tries to find the good, in it, as well. Now, Susan, I know that you're going to share a little bit of The Last Day in Paris, and I'm going to allow you to kind of set the tone, set the scene, to share with us what you are getting ready to read, and we are ready when you are.
You want to read a little piece?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I didn't quite catch that. Okay, sorry. Yes. So I'm actually going to read you a little bit from the prologue because I don't want to read for too long, and I think this really sets us quite nicely. But this, as I said, this is the beginning. This is we go straight into Isabel's story, who was the lady in the Louvre, and we don't know at this point who she is, but we know that she's doing something that she's to hide from the Nazis. So here we go. I'll take a quick drink of water before I start. Right. Paris, August 1943. With her heart pounding and her arms straining with the weight, Isabel sprinted through the shadows, focusing on the back of the darkened building. Her breath fogged in the chilly air as she raced through the door and bounding up the stairs 2 at a time, her lungs burning with exhaustion as her hand fumbled for the key. The sound of Nazi boots thudded up the steps below, causing her stomach to tighten as the door raced inside. The cloying stillness of the house closed her bone-chilling cold, and she stood motionless for a few moments the picture grasped in her hands. The feeling of emptiness took her breath away, not only the lack of heat and light, but of the lives that would never return here. Placing the picture down, her fingers fumbled along the wall until they located a lamp, which she lit up with a trembling hand. It was well past midnight, and she knew what she had to do. Rushing to the bedroom, her best friend Bridget's dying words still echoing in her mind, she scanned along the wall until she found the thumb mark as she remembered. Carefully, she pulled down a section of plasterboard. An icy fear gripped her as she heard shouts of the enemy reverberating through the building, knowing the Jewish families were being dragged from their beds in a frenzy of terror and panic. She fought to keep herself composed as anguished cries of children pierced the walls. She frantically lifted the precious piece of art and lowered it carefully into the gap where it fitted perfectly. Swallowing down her tears, she noticed the letter on the back, and she thought of what those heartbreaking words could say as she gazed at the beautiful picture one last time. She hastily covered it up with sacking, praying it would never be discovered. As her fingers scrambled to replace the section of wall, heavy fists pounded on the door. In a flash, a horde of grey uniforms burst through the doorway and seized her by the arm, dragging her from the room, screaming. Yeah.
Guys, there you have it. As you can see, Suzanne, let me just tell you, you captured us in the prologue. I know when I was reading it, I was like, it's like you were ready to like turn the page to find out like what is next. I mean, you totally set the scene with the prologue. Guys, if you're just joining us, Suzanne Kelman just shared from us a little snippet from The Last Day in Paris. It is hot off the press. We'll be sharing with you how you can get your hands on a copy of The Last Day in Paris. Now, as Susan, we have to play a round of this or that, my friend. I promise you, there's no right or wrong answer because it is all things according to Suzanne. And Veronica wanted you to know, she said that great snippet, thanks for sharing. And Sarah Hardy said that it is powerful. I totally agree, Sarah. The prologue is powerful. It's one of those wow factors. And I like to say is when authors kind of like hit you with a headliner right at the beginning as well. Okay, Susan, let's get started, my friend. First up, Susan, morning person or night owl? Morning person or night owl?
I'm up at 5. I'm a morning person.
Okay, I love it. I love it. Susan, we are taking a trip. Are we going on a plane ride or are we taking a road trip? Plane ride or road trip?
On a plane, baby. Let's go on a plane.
I love that. I love that. Now, Susan, we're also taking a trip. Are we going to the mountainside or are we going to the beach? Mountainside or the beach?
We're going to the beach. I love to be by the water.
I love that. I love that. Now, Susan, we have to know this one for the cafe, my friend. Are you team tea or are you team coffee?
I'm a tea girl. Well, in fact, I do a bit of both, but tea's my favorite. I'm English. What can I say? It goes with it's in our blood.
I love that. I love that. Now, of course, guys, there is a giveaway on today, and it's going to be an ebook copy of The Last Day in Paris. And Susan, I'm going to get you to help me. I'm going to go up and down the comment section, and you're going to tell me when to stop. And when you tell me when to stop, that person will be the winner of an ebook copy of The Last Day in Paris. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, as soon as you tell me when to stop.
And stop.
Okay. Ola Lawson, you are the winner of an ebook copy of The Last Day in Paris. If you will inbox me your information, we'll be sure that you get a copy of the ebook version of The Last Day in Paris. Now, as Susan, I want for you to answer this question for us. Can you share with us, what did you enjoy? And it's kind of two parts. What did you enjoy about writing the first book in this series, The Last Day in Paris? And then what are you enjoying about bringing this series together?
Those are great questions. I think what I loved the most about this book was all the research I did on the Louvre, because it was so for the war, and we had to go and look at all that. We had to figure out, I mean, it's amazing what they did. And I think I had no idea. And I try and do a lot of the research that I can to make sure that it's correct. And it was fascinating. Like, for example, there was this one piece that was so huge that they had to remove telegraph poles to get it out of Paris. And it was made with something called bitumen, which is like a tar that doesn't actually dry. So they couldn't roll it. And I talk about the piece in the book, and they literally had to
yeah.
And they couldn't roll it. And so it was an amazing, that I think that I had no idea. And that's the fun thing for me, is I go in when, a story, and you never know what you're going to uncover as you go. And just finding out so much about the Louvre was so exciting to write about. That was for me anyway. I really enjoyed it. And I think for the series, first of all, I love having to be setting one place. So for me, not having to research lots of different places means it's a little bit less work. But also, I am a sister. I'm one of 4 sisters. There's 5 of us in my family. And, to take a family dynamic was so exciting for me, and say, because in families, if you are part of a bigger family, everybody is different, and everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. You've got you've got the bad girl, you've got the one who takes the risk, you've got the one who's the sensible one. And, and each character, it was really fun, like, to take this family who just were really passionate about Paris and saving their art, and this one, saving the written word. And so it's exciting for me just to be able to use this family as kind of my blueprint, and then be able to, like, set things up in one book that is moving forward. So it's pretty exciting right now, because, as I said, I'm getting ready to write book 3, which is like ups the tension by 10. I won't give you any spoilers because I'm still in the process of that. But it's really exciting, because as you get to know each of these sisters, it all means so much more, so that by the 5th book, by the last book in the series, hopefully you'll know all the sisters. And so I'm hoping that will mean that we will feel like we really know this family. And so that was what was really fun for me, is you're not being introduced to new characters all the time. Some of these sisters, even though it's all focused on one sister, each book is focused on one of the sisters, you feel that you get that feeling of, I really know these people. I know the dad, I know the mom, I know the kids, I know everything. And that to me was what really was exciting, was to write in a way that is very relatable, that we can really relate to.
That is awesome. And I don't know if you guys caught that. Suzanne did spill a little bit of tea. So there's going to be 5 books in this series. And real quick, Suzanne, can you give us the name? If you guys look straight back, there's the cover back there that I was sharing with Suzanne that I absolutely love. Can you tell us the name of book 2 in this series, The Paris Sisters?
And this book has been such a joy to write. It is called The Bookseller of Paris, and it's Madeleine's story, who was the oldest Villette. And Madeleine is based on, as I said, based on another true story, a woman called Idelle Kibra, who actually managed to smuggle through from Germany and other countries thousands and thousands and thousands of microfilm tape. She went in, she photographed, she did everything. And because during the war, they realized that knowledge was power. And that's why Hitler was burning everything, was destroying everything. Because if you think about back then, no internet, no phones, no anything. The only thing you had was written down. And so that was so valuable that the Allies won the war of words. And one of the things that Roosevelt said, during that time was, he who has the power after the war, who has the words, will have the power. And it was so true. And so this is the story of the older sister who also, she's a very simple, she starts her life as a bookseller. She's gone through something kind of traumatic in her life. And so she's this is her safe space. She loves her customers. She's got a big heart. She's the oldest, so she's the most sensible, but she's also got a big heart. She's that older sister, and then something comes into her life that she never expected. And she is absolutely compelled to go to Berlin to solve this issue. And she smuggles books back and forward from Berlin in under her clothes and all this kind of thing. So it was a really great story. One to research again because it's based on a true story, but also it's and in a bookshop. I mean, it was so fun, like to even like write and find out who, you know, how many books of this author written and how many books of this author written by this time. And so it was so, I felt like by the end of it I totally was living in this 1940s bookshop, and that was really fun for me to have that, the two dimensions story, a dramatic spy story. She working for the resistance, but she's also just a bookseller who wants to sell books, you know. So that was a really fun, it's been a really fun story to write.
I love it. And I can imagine. And Susan, we, of course, we love, I love books with a bookish backdrop, whether it's a bookstore or if it's something about books. I love those as well. And Susan, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us today and talking about your latest release, The Last Day in Paris. Can you please share with us, how can they get their hands on The Last Day of Paris, which is available in ebook as well as print?
Yeah, you can go to Amazon, obviously. If you go to Suzanne Kelman, you'll see all of them, all my books there. But yes, if you just go to Amazon, it is on Kindle Unlimited. You are a Kindle Unlimited subscriber, you can get that for free. And right tonight, it will go back up to $3.99. So it's on a Kindle Unlimited deal right now. So right now, I actually have The Paris Orphans, which is this book, is actually a free novella that kind of is a pre-sequel. So, you know, it kind of sets you up a little bit with the story. So you can actually get that for free. This one for 99 cents. And this one, so back to front. It's because everything's back to front. And this one for $3.99. So for under $5, for less than a latte, you can get 3 books to read. And I think that's a pretty good deal. So if this feels like a series that you would like, then I would suggest you run to Amazon and get that before it goes up.
Yes, I love that. And thank you for sharing that for us. So guys, you heard it here. The Paris Sisters, it's like the prequel is like a little novella. You can get that right now. It is for free for now, limited time. So go do it. And then of course, The Last Day in Paris, it is available as well. And then you can pre-order the next book that's in the series as well. Now, Susan, please share with us, how can we stay connected with you?
Oh, yeah, you can find me on Facebook. You can also, if you go to my website, SuzanneKelmanAuthor.com, you can sign up for my newsletter. I have a lot of great newsletter subscribers. You can also, you know, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but if you go to an author's Amazon page and press follow, then as soon as a book comes out, the Amazon will let you know. So that's you haven't got to keep checking. Oh, I remember that author. Oh, I love their books. You know, I do that with all the authors I love. And then as soon as a book's out, I know it's out, I can go get it. So you can follow me there. You can get me on Facebook. It's also Suzanne Kelman Author. Oh, wonderful. Well done, Angela. She's all organized. And all on my website. And I love to talk. I love it. We have a lot of fun on my Facebook page. I have a great group of readers over there. I do all sorts of fun with them. So please come over and join me there on Suzanne Kelman and the author page. My personal page, I don't go on. Come onto my author page, which I'm on every day. And I'd love to meet you all. I chat to readers all the time. That's the exciting thing about being a writer, because I am a reader too. And so it's really fun to hear what people like and what they enjoy and what they're reading. I love all that.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Susan, as well. Thank all of you for hanging out with us. And as well, The Last Day in Paris, it is available now. It is hot off the press. Definitely get you a copy. And once you read it, be sure to write a review. I know that Suzanne Kelman will be so appreciative of that as well. And that's our show, guys. And as we always say, have an amazing day, because we're having an amazing day. And until next time, we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. Get a copy of The Last Day in Paris.